And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. Ha! I didn't fuck it up this time. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have two of my good brothers and sisters. We have the man behind the Wanderer's Library, good brother Sig.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're all having a wonderful evening. And if you're down in the south, stay safe in the snowstorm.
And our resident dragon gremlin, who may or may not be dodging the big cats in the monastery. Good sister Tabby.
I think Tabby's having headphone problems.
Can relate.
Oh goodness.
I don't have to worry about anyone chewing up the wires when you're using a wireless headset. But after our brief foray in a triple shot, which, don't worry, I don't have any plans on doing that again anytime soon.
It was fun for what it was.
I think I only got away with that because Dharma 6 was so small. But we are back at it with the GM section of MagicPunk. Also, I feel like a bit of an idiot because I only realized today that MagicPunk had a Twitter account. But after this, we'll be getting into our final thoughts, but I have a feeling I know how that's going to shake out.
I'm poking Tab and seeing if she's talking.
But with that said, there is going to be a fair bit of skimming because a lot of GM sections are going to be advice columns, but we'll certainly have a few comments here and there.
Yeah.
Last time we were in, we talked about the spell system and how extensive it is. And yet, yeah, there we go.
Yay!
Hey, I don't have a cat killing me. Maybe the cat actually tried to kill my headset, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
Again?
So that is what happened.
But the funny thing is that even with the amount of spells that this has, it doesn't have nearly as much of a spell ratio as some games that I've covered, and some games that I've roasted. Because let me just do some checking just to make sure I have the numbers right. Because some of you may recall that I did a little experiment several years ago comparing the total amount of pages for different core books and the amount of pages just dedicated to spells. So, MagicPunk has 279 pages for its core book. So, just covering the spell lists, start excluding the how to read spell data and all that, starting with where it talks about the School of Hyperspace. So that's page 115 to page 146. So let's do a little bit of calculation here. So that is only 31 pages.
279.
That is 11.11 repeating. Or 11.1 repeating percent. Compared to some of the other games I've covered, that is on the low end. In terms of the pages of spells ratio. Because for example, the player's just as a reference, the player's guide for Castles and Crusades, 41% of that is spells.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much that's changed with the Reforged version, but I don't know. Let me check.
Third edition, 40%. AD&D, 47%.
Damn,
AD&D
almost 50% just for spells?
Yep. AD&D second edition had an improvement. It was only 46%. Oh. But yeah, 11%, that puts it in the same category as Warhammer Fantasy second edition, which beats it by 1%, or the Savage Worlds Fantasy Companion, at least for Explorers Edition. I haven't double-checked this with the Fantasy Companion for Suede, but the Explorers
I
Edition
have that.
one...
I could take a look at that at some point.
Yeah. But the Explorers Edition, the Fantasy Companion for the Explorers era, it's 13%. And D&D 4th Edition's Player's Handbook 1 had 12% just spells. It probably would be more if you counted all of the powers, but I feel like at that point you're cheating.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that for a game that is so magic focused, the amount of pages of just spells is still in the minority compared to other fantasy games, which I find somewhat amusing. Now, that being said, the first part of the GM section is talking about how to game master, talking about the GM's role as both facilitator, adjudicator, and director. I think a lot of people forget this, and they try and treat the GM as if they are the AI in a video game, or this idea that the GM can't be flexible. And in fact, I will go out on a limb and say the director analogy with GMs is close to the mark, but I can think of one thing that's a bit closer, and that is a booker for a wrestling promotion. Because yeah, you have to set things. They have to set things up, but then it's ultimately up to the players to, well, not put too fine a point in it, get over.
Mm-hmm. And going back to our thing with castles for a moment, so the spell list for the Reforged book is 106 pages. The total page count of the handbook itself is 286, so that's 37% for spells.
In a row?
Yes.
I had to do it. Anytime 37 gets invoked, I have to channel clerks.
Yes.
That's just the rules.
Yep.
But
Not 37, I'm not old.
But obviously, for tips for enjoying GMing, don't overdo it. Reducing your burden, enjoying the prep. Pacing isn't everything. I feel like this is something that is a very underrated thing to make note of.
Something I still have trouble with from time to time.
Another thing that I think a lot of people struggle with, especially some of the grogs, is the GM and players are a team.
Mm-hmm. You're telling a collaborative story, not a one-sided story.
And I especially think that this particular mindset is sometimes lost on people who feel that they need to provide... They say that they need to provide a challenge, but the way that they act ends up coming across adversarial. In terms of the challenge that they put the players through. The ultimate expression of that kind of challenge is Tomb of Horrors, but Tomb of Horrors is not something you should aspire to.
Tomb of Horrors is evil game design.
Yeah. It was pretty much designed in that way for the same reason nobody who's pursuing music should aspire to write something like the Black Page. And God help anyone who tries to play that thing, especially on drums. And
yeah, most people who actually do create music don't do that, except if you're going to make a Trollo, which, I mean, my brother's done that for me, but yeah.
Well, that's...
Trollos are just for silliness.
Well, Tabby, are you familiar with how the Black Page came to be?
Not how it came to be, but I do know about it.
Some of the members of Frank Zappa's band asked him said that the stuff that they were making was a bit simple. Could he make something a little more complex?
God.
Never ask that question. Ever.
Never ask that question in general, and especially don't ask that question to somebody like Frank Zappa.
Or my brother.
Because you will get exactly what you asked for.
Yeah. There was a comment that was made at a jazz band once that was like, oh, this is a little bit too easy. And so we got Center of the World, or Center of the Universe. And do you want to play jazz in 5/4? Because I don't think you want to play jazz in 5/4. It's not fun.
Nope.
And don't do it.
Jazz is already a bit of chaos at the best of times. I mean, that's the whole nature of bebops.
Yeah, then he made it into a 5/4 piece, and we couldn't play it because not all of them were. Well, there wasn't a lot of classical musicians in it. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. I probably would have tried for classical music, but I don't enjoy getting screamed at every day.
But that's half the fun.
Not when it involves throwing hands with your conductor.
Now they threw their shoes at us and batons and sometimes the music itself.
Who did you people study under? J.K. Simmons?
Nah, Darren Davis.
Oh,
I don't know who that is.
I've had a few who thought that getting on the bad side of the guy a foot taller than him was a good idea.
God.
Um, one who kept poking at me, and I kept telling him to stop it, and he wouldn't. I was like, you do that again, you're not getting that hand back.
It's very common practice, Sig, for band directors to legitimately yell in your face,
Mm-hmm.
or just be like they're not like they're not necessarily bad, but they're like bad at what. Generally speaking, they're really good at what they do, and they're trying to make you as good at what they do as you know they are.
I just
And so,
I just
yeah,
had the misfortune of having someone who was not used to handling somebody who had no time for his shit.
Ugh.
But anyway, uh, after that they talk a bit about preparing a session, which as well as playing with beginners. Uh, this part I do, even though we're skimming it, I do think this should be read by most GMs because I think with enough experience, a lot of GMs and a lot of players get tunnel vision about the way you're supposed to do things.
Guilty, and I've been trying to keep myself open about that, especially considering I haven't been doing it long.
Mm-hmm.
it's not how long you do it. It's just like making sure that like I always tend to have new players or something, and Sig does too. We always tend to have new players, and you get you have the one random new person, and it's very easy to be like, oh my goodness, does this person even can they read? And you're just like, it can come across like you're trying to help, but it's like,
Yeah.
and I'm guilty of that. I know that, like, any experienced,
If you're
GM is
guilty of it, I'm definitely guilty of it.
I'm
The
guilty of it. Like,
the only time I really get
dude,
on somebody is when they make a fuss about things that I explicitly made clear, like that one problem kid in the Lex Arcana incident.
Goodness.
I know I bring up that incident a lot, but it's a good measuring stick for how I approach these things. Because I made explicitly clear to everyone, when you come in, do not build a combat heavy character or you're not going to have a whole lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if I'd made clear, I'm not going to stop you if you do that, but you were warned.
yeah.
And that's a perfectly fair expectation to have.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to do an investigative heavy campaign, why are you here wasting my time when I could give that spot to somebody else? Uh, but they also talk about those playing for the first time, which there's a whole thing I could say on some people who are for either internal or external reasons, um, because they're new to something, they're praying for somebody else to not be new to bail them. And I understand where that thinking comes from, but when you're venturing off the beaten path, you're gonna have to make peace with the fact that you may be the first, at least
I
the
will
first in
say
your
that,
particular circle.
as someone who has also, like, I mean, when I was a new player, it was the same kind of thing. I definitely was hoping that somebody who wasn't new would do something first. Um, and but at some point when you've got an entire table full of people who are not exactly as experienced, there's like one experienced person and he's over there, playing his PlayStation, and it's like, well, I guess I'm just going to make my high charisma character now be the leader of this group, even though I'm, a cloppy and should probably not be leading this group. And having to go out of the comfort zone to help out that even as a new player, it's so nerve wracking, but it's like you got to do it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. But after the advice, they go into the place system. You can either going through one shot or campaign play, which is pretty self-explanatory. As well as things like rotating GMs or splitting scenarios. As well as biz only scenarios. Basically playing a biz session as a prologue before starting the main scenario. Which might be a good way to introduce the kind of setting that MagicPunk is, because a lot of people have looked at MagicPunk and thought, "Oh, this is a cyberpunk fantasy setting." But as I hope we've made clear throughout this, that's not entirely the case. Because there's not really any cyber in this. It is taking the magic as technology thing that I've talked about in the past to its logical extreme. But after that, they go into building a scenario. Going into the number of PCs that it can support, the playtime, the scenario rank, which corresponds to the team rank. Which the difference between them is going to determine how easy or difficult they find it. Team rank is something we talked about before. It is, and just so I'm not talking out of my ass, let me make sure I double check the way team rank is calculated. So give me 1 second. It was on page 45, but the page count in the PDF numbering and on the book itself are not the same. So team rank is the average of character ranks. Character ranks, it starts at 5 and goes up based on the number of total advancements that a character has taken. Usually every 4 advancements is 1 more rank. So just something to keep in mind. If the scenario and team rank are the same, it'll be normal difficulty. If the scenario rank is higher, then it'll be harder. If the team rank is higher, then it'll be easier. The scenario rank seems to go from 3 to 7. 3 is extremely easy, 4 would be easy for a new PC, 5 would be standard, 6 would be difficult, 7 would be extremely difficult, at least for new PCs. And much like in the Mega 10 RPG, there's a bit of talk about a scenario trailer. I think we saw that also with Tokyo Nova.
We did see that a little bit. I do remember that.
Yeah. It is a concept I'd like to see more often.
Yeah, I liked it when I was reading it was Tokyo Conception, and I liked what I was reading on it, and it was just kind of just a really cool idea of just the trailer.
Yeah. Tokyo Conception is nice, but I have found that I enjoy Devil City Tokyo a bit more. Especially since there's a lot more to do in it. But that's a little bit unfair because it's had a handful of scenarios and most recently a replay. at least what we have translated. But then it talks about what can be done in a event, whether it be actions, tests, initiating a battle, the triggers for events, whether it's a timed or interrupt, as well as a looping event or an event that happens secretly. The format of the event, which is usually trigger, end, participation, and location/time. And then going into the phases, which we've kind of talked about, as well as a introduction handout, which the way introduction handout is described here, it kind of reminds me of the primer that I usually write for my campaigns. Even the one-shot is no exception. I kind of wrote a primer for that as well.
I do kind of the same thing, and I've done it for the past FFLE one-shots I've done, kind of similar to yours.
Yeah, I got the idea to do primers after listening to a director who had worked on a bunch of Nickelodeon projects talk about the series Bible with television.
It's definitely helpful.
Yeah. A series Bible in television is a document that is meant to contain characterizations, plot threads, and all that to keep everybody on the same page.
Yeah, a design document like in video game design.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes shows don't have it, and it really, well, shows when they don't, because those ones are the ones that tend to go off the rails very quickly. But after that, it does go into tasks, which is pretty self-explanatory as far as what that is, as well as things like tests. And also the suggested level of difficulty for them. And I know it says CH. Remember that that's the challenge rating, meaning that's the floor that you have to roll over, while also still rolling under your stat. But at the same time, we also get a suggested setup for enemy placement. How often you should have encounters, the max amount of enemies, and the total character rank of those enemies, as well as the max character rank for normal and tough enemies. As well as we do have a sort of CR table, but this isn't like challenge rating. It's more a general. It's more like the challenge setups we saw in Draw Steel, where it's more about a budget.
Yeah.
Here we have the stat total, the minimum and maximum, and how many skills. And it does go up pretty damn fast.
Yes, it does.
But there are 5 enemy types: human, creature, mutant, golem, and spirit. And as an optional rule, you can give ore cards to NPCs. But instead of drawing them, treat them as having a number of tally 5 cards in their hand equal to their hand size. You can spend 2 cards to act as a face, 3 cards to act as an ace, and 4 cards to act as a joker. I feel like that's a decent way to simplify the whole ore card hand, because having that for a bunch of NPCs might get a bit ridiculous. And I only have 2 hands. I'm not like that one giant in Greece that has 100 hands. But outside of that, the main differentiation between PCs and NPCs is traits. Uh, some traits are mandatory based on the creature type, and others can be spent with trait points, as long as you meet the conditions. And there are a lot of them, each of them having different costs. And let me look at that CR trait to see how it handles traits. So let's see what we got here.
Self-destruct.
Mhm.
One of my most common tropes. Well, self-destruct and spawn enemies.
Yep.
No, I totally did not put pain elementals in my games.
Mm.
Oh, Tabby's gonna kill me.
I mean, at least you didn't put archviles.
Not yet. Don't give me ideas. I will do it.
Yeah, and then a week passes, and you end up trying to do scars with that fake out. Remember, folks, always double tap the scar.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only pet peeve I'd have when it comes to the trait list is it not exactly being alphabetical, but I think that's more a translation consequence. But in addition to that, we have a whole chart for innate weapons, which include things like fangs and claws, as well as tails and tentacles, but also breath weapons and golem armaments. And I do like that one of the breath weapons is force breath.
Nice.
But if that's still a bit much, we do have a few stat blocks for different NPCs. Each of which has a CR, but remember that is not the same as challenge rating in the world's most litigious role-playing game. This is a lot more flexible. But it does amuse me that something as powerful as a dragon is still only CR 12. Then again, an alpha dragon is CR 16 and a greater dragon is CR 20. So, okay, that sounds about right. And each of them have a lot of the monsters we have here have some combination of constant effects, main actions, and snap actions. We do have the fact that golems include not only, golems, but also unmanned mecha, such as the Guardian mech, a golem created with Magir tech for guard duty. Or a more advanced version being the Arsenal, which is exactly what it sounds like. But then the similar thing with spirits and creatures, which the creatures entry feels like natural animals, and we do have a nice little chart for the whole group. But after that is the scenario section, which covers 3 scenarios that you could run. Obviously, we won't be covering that. Then a very impressive index that that. Let me double check something. I need to zoom in fully. Okay, so that's not the case. I was thinking it was hyperlinked for a second, but it's not. Still a pretty damn good index, though.
Yeah.
And after that, we have the character sheet proper, as well as a sheet specifically for your items, your garage, your spell book, your lifestyle, as well as a couple blank maps, one squares and one hexes. Kamigakari had this kind of thing as well, and a quick reference for some of the important rules. And that is the end of it. So, with all of that said, having covered it for the last few weeks, what did you guys think of MagicPunk?
Oh, a way to open the year. I want to play. Let's play, damn it.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think it
Mhm.
was great. It sounded like it'll be a lot of fun to play, and I'm kind of like with Sig. I would like to play the game now, please.
Yeah. I
As an aside, you were talking about the spells and powers in the fantasy companion for Suede.
Yep.
I've calculated it. Was 36 pages total. It's 13% of the total book, which is 271 pages.
Yep. So that is a bit, but it's still on the low end, comparatively speaking. And I find it funny that for as magic focused as this game is, only 1/10 and change of the book is dedicated to that. I do think we have an interesting approach to using a pure D20 in this mix of roll high and low.
Mm-hmm.
And if the default method of character creation was full point buy, then that would be a potential issue. But because of the fact you have the package design, that issue is significantly alleviated. And truth be told,
unless you're a really big nerd and just want to do the whole thing from scratch, which enjoy your time with that, I guess.
Which, people like that belong in who think that that's the only true way to build characters are probably dealing with Stockholm syndrome from playing GURPS all their life.
I've never played a single game of GURPS in my life.
I like GURPS, but I think that some of the people who glaze it over tend to whitewash the fact that you are going to be putting in multiple session zeros in that.
Okay, between GURPS and Rifts, which is worse?
Rifts. GURPS is at least easier to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
Rifts, on the other hand, is busted as hell and difficult to navigate. But for me, bless you. But outside of that, I can't think of too many things that I have a overt issue with. There is the matter of how certain things are set up alphabetically, but that could just as well be a consequence of how the text was written out. And it's not like anyone can reformat whole swaths of text when doing these kind of translations.
Mhm.
But much like what we experienced with Tokyo Nova, this is tailor built for its particular setting. And I'm actually glad for that because I don't know why, but when people look at games that are built for a particular setting and then go, "Oh, I'm just gonna run my own setting in this." A part of me always feels like that comes across disrespectful. Like here's a whole setting that they built the entire set of mechanics around, and you just want to do generic shit. And I had made a stray comment on Twitter earlier today about how many people who say that actually have a setting or just a bunch of ideas, because it really seems like the latter at times. Obviously, there are
Which is
exceptions,
why I'm
but
glad I was gonna say, which is why I'm glad with SGLon, I actually had a lot of it fleshed out. I just repurposed it for Legend Edition.
yeah. But like you see people you see that whole thing of you can run any kind of fantasy, and yet the fantasy they run is the most generic stuff possible. You've got the whole of possibility in front of you, and you go with the thing that everybody else is doing. It's like I'm listening to them. It's like I'm listening to clone radio on my morning commute. Wait a minute, that was Songs for the Deaf. What am I talking about? CLON. We play the music we play more music that sounds like everybody else than everybody else.
I mean, at least they're upfront with it.
Yeah. Obviously, the whole thing was just one piss take by Queens of the Stone Age, but
Mhm.
the I could I know some people would probably have an issue with the whole thing with Or and Orite using cards instead of a spell point setup. I'm actually fine with it because it does mean you have to be a little careful as far as what you invest into, and it reinforces one of the game's primary dichotomy, which is spell focus or Magir focus. Both of them having advantages and disadvantages.
I mean, it takes all types to build a world, so.
Mm-hmm. But it's much like how a Souls-like is going to have the dichotomy of strength build versus dex build.
Mhm.
You you have that you have a similar setup with on one end people who want to highly focus on Magir, and on the other hand you have people who want to focus on spells. And let's not forget it doesn't take too much effort to learn magic in this system. And it's instead of I want to be a mage, the question is, okay, what kind of mage? Which is something I'm perfectly fine with. So I'd be willing to give MagicPunk a stamp of strongly recommended. It is
I
very
agree.
much dedicated to its particular style of play. For those who want to lean more into the cinematic end of things, it is going to be ideal. For those who want to do something in the realm of science fantasy, but don't feel like going with yet another dystopia, um, this is one to look out for. And for those who really enjoy the kind of heroes that are in a Proto Man album, this is also one that I can highly recommend too. I think Proto Man would fit better in this than in say Cyberpunk 2020.
Mhm.
Uh, but I know some we talked about this when we started. I know some people had issue with the fact that you're playing as a hero slash anti-hero in MagicPunk and not doing the morally gray shit. Everybody does that already. Everybody assumes that's what you have to do.
Everybody's morally gray and nobody is.
If there's nothing wrong with doing that, but I feel that should be an actual conscious choice, not a designed for its own sake. That being said, good.
I was about to say, I don't know. That being a conscious choice, like you said, everybody does it. But I find it far more interesting to go from that to, say, one extreme or the other.
But what we have here is something very solid. And I do hope to see some folk messing around with it in the future. I may do so if I have the right setup and the right spot in the schedule.
Shit, I'd be down, given, schedule permitting, of course.
I'm in.
But now, with that said, I would like to talk a bit about what is going to be coming down the pipe. Since obviously this is going to bring our look through MagicPunk to a close. And obviously next week is going to be a one-shot entry. We're not quite done with messing around with Japanese tabletop because one of the projects we'll be covering next week is Wild Blue Gliders, which is going to feel very ocean when we get to it.
I was going to say, oh god, we're not invoking Waterworld for this, are we?
No.
Good.
We're not invoking what happens when you don't listen to Spielberg.
Oh boy.
And the other
project... let's start that flame war.
And the other project we'll be going into is a TTRPG out of Italy that is built around emulating fighting games. One done by our old friend Luca De Marini. In fact, this was the first game I ever came across by him. Musha Shugyo. Which, yes, is a TTRPG that is trying to emulate fighting games.
Awesome.
Sounds interesting.
When we come to the next season in about 2 weeks, we will be delving into the self-proclaimed Slash of Life RPG known as SOAR, Shirtless on a Rooftop, which is very much channeling Final Fight and Streets of Rage, as well as just beat-em-up games in general, especially 90s beat-em-ups.
Bring on the Double Dragon.
And that will be a interesting thing to explore. And of course, there's going to be a few other surprises coming down the pipe, because I seem to have gotten some attention over the last few days. So in the coming weeks I will be back on the interview train. Of course, tomorrow will be the next incarnation of the Agito Arcanum Selection Trial one-shot that I've been doing throughout the month of January. And on Sunday, I will be doing an interview with Makina on the upcoming game Silent Lake, as well as the return of the Record of Swordforged Worlds. Weather permitting, of course.
Yes.
But all of that and more is going to be coming down the pipe, so it should be interesting how things turn out. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
See you on the trail.